Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, Made with Love. My name is Heather, and I have said one of my first projects I'm going to do was make a sewing machine cover. So I bought those five pieces of material that I had gotten the other day. Where's my other two? Right here. So I got the 5 pieces, and I had cut them all into about 5 by 5 squares. I've got a couple that were about 4.5 by 5, only because the material was not perfectly even. It wasn't like a perfect 20 by 20 square. They're about 19.5 to 21 by about 19.5 and 21, so they were kind of like a little off, but I did my best to get as many good size squares because I want to make a quilted pattern for my sewing machine cover. So I had my pattern all laid out with these 5 colors. I got the 2 pinks, like a darker pink, the lighter pink, the green with the whisks and serving utensils, and I got this black one with a whole bunch of kitchen stuff, and another white one with a whole bunch of the kitchen stuff. And then I was at Walmart because this material is very thin, and I was looking at different tutorials, so I went and I bought the Heat and Bond fusible fleece for quilting. So I thought, well, this would probably really help. I seen it with a couple other people. One lady, she used a foam, and I was looking for it, but Walmart doesn't carry it in store, and online it was like $35 a sheet, and I don't know what size I'd need. So I said I'll just go to Walmart and see what they had. So I bought 2 of these. They were just under $8 each. I'm new to sewing, so the measurements don't mean anything to me at this point. So I wasn't sure if I needed 2 or if one would work. So I thought, well, I'm at Walmart, I must buy 2 because I do want to make another sewing cover for my other machine as well. So I thought, well, I might as well grab 2. And I was there, and for just under $13, I got this nice cotton fabric. I'm trying to figure out what this is. So it's 44 inch by 36 inch. Again, those measurements as a new beginner sewer don't really mean anything to me at this moment till I pull it out and kind of figure out how big that really is. And I really liked this black and white checkered print. But when I laid it beside all my patterns, I didn't like the pinks. I like the pink, but next to the black and white, suddenly the pinks just stood out and I didn't like them. So I had to redo my whole pattern. That took me, I think I spent like an hour this morning piecing together all these squares. I've got a total of 36 squares here with 5 colors, so I figured out this whole pattern, got it all done, and then I come home with this black and white material for the lining, and I don't like the pink. But I really like the way the green, and of course the black, and the white. I like how these 3 all really go together, so it's hard to see. I don't quite know how to line up material so people can see what I've got, but I liked this color combination. I mean, the pink was still okay, but for some reason, there's a little bit of this pink right next to the black, and the pink just overpowered every other color, especially the white. The white just kind of faded in, and I'm like, no, I didn't like it. I like these ones. So I had to take my whole pattern kind of apart and redo it. So for my pattern here, I'm going to be, see, I'll just turn my camera down so you can see. I've got it kind of laid out here on my table. Now I kind of just moved a few pieces now, so I'm short a couple right here in this corner. But I'm working on my pattern with 5 sections. So I've got the front, the back, the right side, the left side, and the top. Now, when I was trying to figure this out, when I had the 2 pinks, I had no 2 colors side by side. Now that I've got it down to just the 3 colors, the 2 center pieces are going to be the same color right beside each other. And I don't know, I'm good with, I don't know how to explain this, but I'm good with visualizing number patterns. I can see patterns like numbers. I'm not so good with like stuff like this, but I gave each one a number. So each pattern is like 1, 2, and 3. So I've got my stuff labeled 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it was 1, 2, 3, 1, and I went 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's how he's numbering. So I need this side here had to have 4 down. And then when I'm doing this, then I want the back to be similar to the front. And now my pattern just isn't quite lining up. So I'm going to have to redo my pattern again. So I'm going to be working on that. So what I just want to say is it's going to be really fun to try to figure this out. So I found this one tutorial and she did it in all these little quilts. I'm trying to think her name. Her last name is Shore. Started with a J. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names sometimes. Sometimes I've got names and I don't forget them. Other times I've got the name, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of her name. But she had done this with these quilting with these little strips like this. And I think that was her, or it was either the So Easy. And I said there was like 5 or 6 different tutorials I was watching. I was also on Pinterest just looking up stuff. And so I'm getting everything just kind of messed up in my mind because I was saying, well, how can I take, you know, a little bit from everybody so I can make it my way. But this one pattern, which I will in a second, I will look it up and get the exact name of who it was, because I found this also, I found her pattern on Pinterest too after I'd already seen her do it. Then I went on Pinterest and I found her pattern. And so she did it in the chunks. So it was, you know, like, so the squares are 5 by 5 inch squares. So for this one, the way I'm doing it, so I've got my front will be, I'll do this because my front is 3 by 3. So my front and my back, I need 9 squares. My left side, right side, and top, I need 6 squares each. It gives me a total of 36 squares. I did the quick measurement, and that's about the same size as my sewing machine. Like, I don't mind being a little bit big. I don't want to have to force the cover on. I'm a new sewer. I like to give, I know everybody says like, oh, give yourself like an inch seam allowance. Well, new beginner sewer, I'd rather give myself like 2 inches to work with, and if it's just too big, I can cut that off. Because, you know, it's like just the way I am. I like to use a little bit more material than I need and just cut the excess off. So this is what I'm going to be doing. So I got to refigure out my pattern now. I just thought of how I was going to do it. I just saw it now when I was just looking at this, is the way it showed up in the camera, and I just moved my hand and I just saw how I could rearrange this pattern. So I will come back. Also got to press these because I didn't get them fully, you know, some of them I quickly ironed but not good enough. So I'm just gonna redo my pattern and quickly iron them, and I'll be back when I've got my pattern all laid out again. All right, so I redid my pattern. I got it all figured out, and while I was away, I also just went, because I want to have the right names as to who I was watching. So on YouTube, I was watching So Very Easy, and it was Debbie Shore. I thought it would start with a J, and it was because I was also watching Judy's Craft Room. So I got the Debbie and the Judy kind of mixed together. And then, of course, there was the Missouri Star Quilting Company. I've watched a lot of their videos on just other quilting things. The last time I actually did any quilting, first and only time I've ever done a quilting project was, I don't know how many months back, when I did my bedtime gnome. And then for this pattern here, I actually got it off of Pinterest, and this was by So Delicious. I have not actually seen her videos on YouTube. I've just kind of scrolled through her stuff on Pinterest. So her basic pattern, or her basic thing, is kind of what I started with. So hers are the 5-inch squares, and she's got the rows. We've got 6 by 4. And then her 2 side panels were 2 separate pieces of material, so they're not in the squares. They're just an 8 by 10. So it's 8 by 10 and 8 by 10, and then your 4 by 6 squares going across from the front, the top, and the back. Now I kind of like the idea of having all mine all unblocked. So I took my side panel, and instead of doing like an 8 by 10, I'm actually doing like the 6 squares. So mine will be like a 3 by 2, so it'll be like 6 panels of squares for my 2 sides. I'm hoping this is that the sides will work. I think it will, because I'm looking at it all here laid out. And I was talking to my mom the other night, And I said, yeah, like I'm one of these people who I can look at a dice and it's like in 3D, but I can know what it looks like in 2D spread out. And so I can see things in a different way that other people see things. So just have this really unique way of I can see like spheres are harder for me to understand because they're round, but if you break the sphere in half and then you can just, section it all off into triangles, that I can get. But this is just basically, I say, well, this is like a 5-sided dice. Like I know how to make like an origami dice out of, a piece of paper. You've got how you fold your paper and you get a dice, it's 6 sides. So I can kind of figure this pattern out by saying, okay, well, this is more like 5 pieces here, so let's just work on each section and how do they fit together and how do I sew it together. Instead of like origami, it's like it's flat and you're folding and then gluing, or you don't really have to glue, I guess, but some of the origami I always find it easier when I'm doing with the little kids. If I glue or tape the stuff together, it lasts a little longer and they don't try to take it apart. So I mean, I look at things like that way. So sometimes looking at certain patterns, I just make no sense to me. I need to have it laid out completely in front of me. So I said didn't take me too long to figure out this new pattern arrangement. When I took out the pinks, I was trying to get the other colors in and I don't know, I couldn't figure it out. And then when I had it in the camera, I saw the pattern. Okay, so, but then another thing is, my new sewing machine and my old sewing machine are both brother. And they both came with bobbins. So this is the old bobbins, and this is where I'm gonna have to go through my sewing supplies and have a container for each sewing machine. I've never had to worry about this before, but I just thought that, well, they're both brother and they're both plastic, clear plastic. They look the same to me until I put them together. The new one is a little taller. I think it is just also a little wider. Of course, it's hard to see on that. So that was something I didn't know. I thought they were both brother. The bobbins are going to be like, interchangeable, but I guess not. I guess it depends on if it's a top loading versus a side loading. I guess that would make a difference of how high or wide the bobbins have to be. So now I'm going to have to go through my whole sewing kit and change everything, and I'm going to have to have everything labeled now because this is going to totally mess me up for a little while. So I did figure out the bobbins, and I've got to keep these separate. So I'm just going to throw the old one in that bin over there, and I'll just keep the new one over here so I get them separated right now. So right now what I did do was I just wanted to do a quick, lay out my material here. I'll show you. So I've got it laid all out. Just move my papers out of the way. And so I've got, my 5 sides. So I've got my left side, my right side, my top, my back, and my front. Now, because mine's got patterns, this was also to lay out which way do I want the patterns to go. So the front, all the patterns are going to go from, the top down, so you can see, and the back go from that way, and this one go down, and these ones go down. So I've got my little paper here of my diagram, and I also drew arrows. So when I've got everything laid out in front of me like this, I know which way I have to make sure that I'm sewing the fabric so I don't sew any upside down. So what I did was I just wanted to make sure that this was going to work. So I did take the one side, and I actually very proud of myself. I actually sewed it. It's pretty good. There's one spot where the seams, I thought I had them lined up, but when I sewed the bottom one, just a little bit off. And I even did the finger pressing at the back. That was a few new things I've learned watching all these sewing tutorials for quilting. And then I ironed it flat. So I've got my seams done. And then I even did the other side. Now this is where I'm not very good at cutting. I'm just beginner. So my squares are definitely not all 5 by 5. I think I said that before. I said the material wasn't quite even. So I had a few that were like a 4.5 by 5, and I didn't notice it, but it will show up in my pattern in a few places, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's my first big project sewing. I'm doing a quilting project, so I'm okay if it doesn't quite fit, because I can always, if I need to at the bottom, I can always just add another something, just if I make it a little longer. You know, that's why I say, like, I don't mind, you know, cutting mine a little bit bigger so I get a little bit bigger seam allowance while I'm just learning how to, oh, excuse me, I'm just trying to figure out how to put all this together. So I think I'm done for today. I would like to do some more. I'd like to set up my sewing machine and have you watch you guys watch me sew today. But it is getting late. I'm gonna have to go pick up my husband and my son pretty soon. So I've just got everything laid out. So I said my pattern, I've got it all figured out. I've got it all laid out here. So maybe I will just quickly do one row. Or I'm just gonna slide this up. I don't wanna mess up my rows. But when I was sewing, so I did watch these other tutorials on how to sew quilting before. And I've got quilting books and I've got cookbooks. In fact, I don't know, I'm one of those people who I get a book, I read it from cover to cover. It doesn't matter what it is. So I've read all my cookbooks cover to cover. I've read my quilting books cover to cover, which I bought when I bought myself that machine like almost 18 years ago. I've never done any quilting projects, but I bought all the tools, but I just never could afford fabric. So what I'm gonna do is you just kind of just line them up, you know, right side to right side. And then you stitch here, and you open up the seams, and then so that will be attached. And then you take this one, and you attach this, like this, and you stitch right along there. So when you open up this, then it should be, you know, a nice piece like this. So I do know that much. And then I know when you're trying to do the next layer, so then you've got the next ones should all be attached, and you just kind of same thing. They'd all be lined up like this. And you stitch across, and then when you open it up, all the pieces should all be neatly stitched together. I don't have time tonight to finish, or not right this moment, but I will be back shortly, and I will show you the, oh, so sorry. My allergies are just bothering me a lot lately. Okay, so I will come back when I'm able to get this sewn, but I just wanted to quickly say, yeah, I hate when I say the wrong name. I just want to say, yeah, I hate when I say somebody's name or I get their names mixed up, and so I'm just, so whoever I watch on YouTube and whoever I'm kind of I guess pinning on Pinterest, if I'm using their stuff, I will try to say their name. A lot of YouTube, if they're from, you know, like, I guess it's like Russia, Japan, China, India, Pakistan, things like that, I can't read their names. But I will kind of try to, because they do kind of have a channel that's kind of more of an English channel, or at least enough letters that you can kind of maybe say it correctly. So I will try to do that if whenever possible. But say, for right now, I will be back shortly when I've got time to actually finish sewing this. And then I said, this is going to be fun. I've never used this product. I can't wait to actually do these, to iron this fleece on. That's going to be fun to see how it really stiffens up this. And then, where'd it go? I dropped everything. And then I make the lining. That's the next step that I haven't quite figured out, is making a lining. I've made a few things, like I made little tote bags or purses, but I've never done a lining for anything. So this is going to be my first project that has an actual liner to it. So I can't wait till I get to the chance to get to the next step. So I will be back shortly for you, but I'll be back as soon as I'm able to finish sewing this. All right, so it's got some more time right now, so I'm just going to come and finish sewing this. It's not going to take me long to finish sewing. This is now going to be the pieces for my front, and then I got the pieces for the back. So I've already done the sides and the top when I was just trying to figure out my machine here. I am using stitch J00. I don't know, my position is 2.5. I don't have white thread, so I'm using this light creamy color, which I think will go good because it's got these nice, especially this one here, it's got some yellows in there, and the green and the black, so you just worked really good. So I'm just going to line these first two pieces together. I'm just going to pin this. So I did find if I didn't pin, I did go a little crooked. I'm just going to put a pin right there. Now I'm just going to set this aside because that's the next piece to make this row of 3. So I'm just going to move my sewing machine in. I don't know what the seam allowance is going to be. I don't know that. All I know is when I put it under my foot here, the presser foot, I've got it so the foot is covering right here on the edge of this. Again, I'm learning this. I'm not quite sure how to read any of the measurements on here, so I'm just saying. So I've got my materials lined up right with this foot, so it's just so the material is just under the foot. If that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it. Okay, so I'm just going to start sewing, and I always do a couple stitches and a back stitch. And at the end, I also do a couple little back stitches. Just gonna pull this up. Sorry about my arm. I'm just trying to figure out this sewing machine and where the camera is. I'm just gonna cut some of these loose threads here. They're just kind of all these little frayed pieces off this material. Just kind of get in my way. I'm not quite sure how to prevent them, but sometimes they're just a little too long. I've just got a little pile down there of little threads. I'm just going to trim this just a little bit because I've got some of this material just got a little bit too much of the material. I went a little crooked, so I'm just going to cut off a little trim here so my two pieces the seam will be the same. Like that. That in my little garbage pile. Now I'm going to open it up. I've got these two pieces together, so now I'm going to do the third piece. This piece goes here, so I'm just going to line these corners up. I'm trying to line up 2 of the corners, so I'm not quite worried about the whole thing, but I just figure if I get 2 of the main corners lined up, then it should be a little easier to sew, and it should be straighter at the end. Trying to move my sewing machine, and the whole table's moving with me. Okay, just gotta make sure my thread isn't getting tangled. For some reason, the thread is getting tangled. Just I don't know, just on there. Like I said, I just have to learn a few things. This machine has one of those little thread cutters. I've never had a machine with one of those before, so I find that really handy. But just the way I've got my camera angled, just every time I go to use it, looks like I'm going to be blocking the camera for a second. So just like on this one, I knew that this piece here was cut too long. I'm just going to trim that extra bit off. The next thing I've got to learn is how to cut my squares more straight, but I guess just practice and I should be able to do that. I'm just going to open this. So I've got my row here, should be the width of my sewing machine. So I'm just going to This was a new thing I just learned watching those quilting videos yesterday, so finger pressing. And this one, and then I will go over to my ironing board and I will iron down a little bit. But there is my row of 3. So I'm just going to set this back in my place so I don't lose where I'm sewing. And I've got my next set of 3. I just gotta make sure this is right. It's green. just have to use my list to make sure green, white, black, yes. So I've got my pattern set up and I just don't want to mess up my pattern. So I'm just lining right sides together. And I'm just going to stitch these two together. I want to try to move the machine so you can see what I'm doing, and I just went totally off the material here. Just gotta go back to where I'm on the there, oh, right there. Just went right off the edge. I was just trying to put my sewing machine back in view, and I messed myself up. That, and then I've got do the next one, same thing. I'm just going to line up these corners here and get this as straight as possible, and just stitch this one. Okay, so I got this row done. I'm just gonna trim off these extra strings, and I'm just gonna go and iron down the seam. I'll show in later how I do that. I just got the camera set up at this spot. I just don't like moving my camera so many times. So do the same thing. I'm just gonna open up or flatten out these seams. I've never thought of opening up the seams and flatten them out before, so this is just something new for me to learn. Some people just make it seem like it's so easy for them to do. I'm having trouble finding where the two pieces separate. So I've got that, and I've got the first piece. So I've got two of my rows that will be the front of my cover. So I'm just going to quickly go to the iron, and I'll be back and show you how I stitch these two together. Alright, so I'm back. So I've got the seams all pressed and flat. I've got this little chunk of material on this one, just a little longer than the other one, so I'm just gonna trim some of this excess off. And I just gotta make sure that I got my rows in the right way. So I got black and then green. Okay, so now I want to stitch these two rows together. So I'm just gonna lift them up. I'm gonna line up the corners like that. I'm just going to put a little pin up here, and I'm going to put a little pin over here just to help me hold it straight, because this one is just a little bit of a longer seam for me to stitch. So I'm just going to stitch like right where the two, I've got the right sides together, and I've got the pattern in a way that when I unfold it, then the pattern's going to be going the right way. I don't know how to really explain it. So, I'm just going to learn some new terms, and as I learn the new terms, I'm going to start using them. Okay, so I got my edges lined up. I'm just going to put my foot back down on there. I'm just going to stitch straight straight across the whole bottom. Just kind of, some of these extra strings are just kind of getting stuck on me here. Take out the pins. Open it up, and they should have the pattern all going the right direction. Like that. Oh, now what did I do? Something got messed up here. That's right where it got caught. I knew there was a chunk where it got caught on some loose threads, so that's right where it got pulled, and I thought I went back, but I guess I didn't. So I gotta restitch a little chunk here. Every time I move my machine, my table moves. I don't have a proper sewing table. I'm just using a computer desk that we're not using at the moment. Okay, so where did it go crooked? I know there was somewhere the thread got caught and then my stitching went crooked. I'm just gonna try to line up right there, and that should be right. That should be right. Yep, that worked. Just right where it got, the threads just got caught. So now I'm just going to trim up this extra fabric here. This is what happens when your pieces aren't exactly the same size and you don't quite realize it. And you try to line it up and then they don't line up. Okay, so now I've got it. Now because I'm cutting off so much and I'm not doing so well, I'm probably going to have to add an extra row to everything. I can tell just by holding this up that that's not going to be enough. So I'm going to have to add another row to all my little square thing, my little pieces. That's okay. I said I was kind of expecting it. I have lots of I cut lots of squares, so if I have to use more, I'll use more. It was just a general pattern of a minimum of what I would need. I said, like everybody's sewing machine is going to be a different size. I was just trying to do the best I can, not knowing really how to do any of this and no actual pattern in front of me, just trying to watch people make a pattern and then just create my own pattern out of nothing. Just got to snip a little more off here. I know I'm just throwing my clippings and stuff on the floor. It's okay. I will sweep when I'm finished. My garbage can's over by the table, not over here by the sewing machine. So there, I'm just gonna do this. Just finger press it open, and then I will go over to the iron and I will open that completely. So I've got 2 of the rows done. So now I'm going to work on the next row. Just going to make sure I get the right colors lined up. So my next row should be white, black, green. That's the best thing about working with a standard pattern like this. Like you're doing your rows and it's just, like, okay, what color and how they work on the diagonal. It makes it so much easier to try to figure out the patterns and stuff. So I really think I'm gonna have to make this one more square longer for all 5 of my sides, but I'm just gonna do these basic ones first, and then I'll figure that out after if I have to make them bigger. I'm just gonna set this piece aside. I'm just gonna work on these ones. I'm just gonna quickly stitch these ones together. This is actually going a lot faster than I thought it was gonna be. I think this morning I spent quite a while cutting these up into the squares. Like I said, each piece I think I cut into 18. Yeah, each piece of material, I think I got like 16 or 18 squares out of them. And there's 5 pieces of material, so that was quite a few squares I had to cut up this morning. Again, just lining up right sides together and lining up the corners. If I just get one edge straight, then I can just get everything else straight after that. The next row done, so I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to finger press it and then go over to the ironing board, and I'm going to sew this onto the bottom of this strip, and then I can do the last, just have one more side to work on. So I will be back when I get the other side done. Alright, so I've now have my back panel and the groups of 4 sewn. Still have to, I've got 3 different strips of the 4 sewn. So this is my last panel to work on tonight. So I'm just gonna do the seams. I'm just gonna finger press the seam down, and then with just the iron, just flattening it. Like I said, I've never done this before with the seams. I've never thought about seams before. So this is something totally new to me. I'm just going to do this to all the seams on here. I'm also trying to keep my quilting blocks. I'm trying to keep them all in the right order so I don't have to refigure out my order. There. Got this one. Got the seams on this one sewn or ironed flat. And then I'm just going to come to the front side. I'm just going to press it from the front side as well. And I guess that makes the seams flat and not as visible, which actually really did help when I was trying to sew the next part. So make sure I get these lined up. So that went there. And here's the next one. Just going to quickly do these seams as well. And then I can sew these 3 groups of 4 together, and that makes my back panel for my sewing machine cover. There's a few other things I'd like to make for, like I said, like make another sewing machine cover for my other one, but first I want to just get through this first one. I've never done any quilting like this before. So I made that one, my bedtime gnome. I kind of made him a little blanket using just some pieces of black, blue and white polyester or cotton blend material. This one. And then just one more. Oops, these are out of order. How did I don't know. I'll figure that in a second because I got two blacks side by side, so something is out of order. When I was first doing this, I was having trouble separating them, but now I've done quite a few of these and finding it, faster and easier to separate the pieces of material. Kind of just push them down and they kind of just want to fold open. I was trying to do two hands. Now I can just do it with the one hand now, so I guess just practice. Yeah. I just gotta figure out what I did wrong with my pattern. I have no idea what I just did. But I may have actually sewn something wrong here. I did. I sewed two together wrong. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to undo some stitching, but this is it for tonight. So I will be back tomorrow when I've got some light in here. I hope everybody's liking this tutorial so far. I'm not quite sure how long this is gonna take me to do. This has already taken, I have no idea how long I've been working on this today, but I guess I'll see everybody shortly when I'm ready to do the next steps. Alright, so I'm going to finish up here, and I guess this is going to be a couple parts. I guess this is going to be near the end of part one. It's just starting the quilting stuff. I'm going to just show you I've figured out how to use this fusible fleece backing. I've done a couple pieces just to test it, to see. It's actually really simple. I've never used this product before, but I can do it on my first try. Anybody can use it. So I've got the pieces cut out to the sizes I need. I'm just going to put this down, right side material down on my sewing machine. And I just got to double check. I think it's the rough side. Just want to read. Yes, the rough side goes to the back side of my material here. So is this the right piece? Yeah, okay, this is just a little bit longer than I thought I had cut it. Okay. So put this down. I just got to cut a little bit off. Got about 2 inches too much on this side. And this is so easy to cut. Okay, and then I've got this on here. I'm just going to double check that it's right now. Okay, and then I've got, it says to use a pressing cloth. Well, I don't have a pressing cloth. I'm just going to use my little hand towel. I guess if I'm going to be sewing, I'm going to have to get some other things. This is just this hand towel is just too small, which is what I had. the moment while I'm trying to get this done. You just hold in for 5-10 seconds. So I've done 2 sides. This will be the 3rd side, so I have 5 of these to do. So then I've got more sewing to do because I want to make the quilting pattern on my things. So it looks like it was all quilted. I don't know what it's really called, but when you make those diagonal stitches. And then that'll be my next one, is I will do the diagonal stitches and I will stitch the 5 pieces together. And then I will have another tutorial, so it'll be the part 3, where I will be doing the lining of this. I have never made a lining bag before, like a lining for anything before. So this will be interesting. Just gonna see. Over this once more. I think it looks like it's fused good. And I'm going to flip over and I'm going to just press it on the front. And there, I've got this one done. So now I've got one more to do and I'll have all 5 done. What did I do there? I don't know. Just kind of, I just got some loose threads pulling through. I'll just snip them. Like I said, I've got just one more to do and then I will be back tomorrow and I will do the diagonal stitch. So I'll see everybody shortly, and so I'm going to figure out how to mark to do the diagonal stitch. I figure out how my sewing machine has the little extender foot thing to help you line all the stitches up. So I'm going to be working on that tomorrow, so I will be back when I'm ready for the next step. Alright, I'm not quite sure how much time I have left on my memory card here. So I've got my 5 panels that I've made and I fused them with that felt lining stuff, whatever it's called, I can't remember. And so now tonight I'm working on making my my diagonal crisscross zigzag stitching on here. It's the first time I've ever used a walking foot. Take this off, just the glare is just bothering me. It's the first time I've ever used a walking foot. It's the first time I've actually done any type of quilting. I don't know if you can see, some of my lines are a little crooked. I had some trouble because I was just trying to keep track of the needle going straight and the little foot thing on the side to keep my lines straight. And then every once in a while I realize I'm trying to sew on a diagonal. I see my fabric showing diagonally. I'm trying to straighten out. I'm like, no, I don't want to straighten the fabric out. I want the diagonal lines. So there's some of the diagonal lines. So now I've got the other 4 panels to do. So I'm just gonna turn this down so you can see what I'm doing. I was at Walmart and I was looking for the dressmaker's pen and stuff, and they're like $5 where I live. I'm like, don't have the money for $5 for just a little pen. So I'm just using my pencil for tonight because I can kind of erase the marks. I'm just needing a few guidelines. So all I'm doing is I'm making mine like about 2 inches apart. So I'm just taking the one, I don't know if I can line this up, you can see. So I've got my ruler and I'm putting it up here in the corner. So I just want a starting point and I'm just lightly drawing down on each side of my ruler because my ruler is about 2 inches wide. So I'm just kind of giving myself a couple of light lines. Start to see right there. And then going this way and then doing the same in this other corner. Just put it up here in the corner And just drawing, I don't need to draw straight across the whole piece of material. I just need my starting 2 lines now because I figured out how this works. So I'm just gonna set that aside. I'm just gonna pull my sewing machine over here. I was figuring out all this stuff, and so just making sure I get these lined up. So I'm gonna turn the camera just a little bit. So I've got my walking foot on. It took me probably 10 minutes to figure out how to take the other foot off and put this on. And then to the side, I have this bar here. I don't know what it's called. It just attaches to the walking foot. And it kind of just gives me, so I've got my 1 pencil line lined up. I take this metal bar and I line it up with the other pencil line. So I don't need a full pencil line all the way through. I did on my first one, and then I found, oh, I don't need the pencil lines drawn. I think I drew 3 for each of my things at first, so 3 full lines. I'm like, no, I just need them just at the beginning of where I'm having the diagonals going from the top down, from the left down, or from the right, from the left top down and the right top down. I just needed some guidelines there. Just relining this up. That's all I'm going to do. This keeps disappearing on me too. Very hard for me to do this. I was always taught to always back stitch the front and the bottom of every stitch. Now I'm reading the walking foot, do not do that. So I almost did it a couple times, but there's my first stitch. Maybe if I go through the back, I don't know. You can see, but I've got my first stitch down. So I'm just going to do the next one. I'm just going to keep doing this for all 5 panels. I'm just going to stitch each of the line down. I think on this one I got 10 going both directions. So it was 20 lines of stitching, and that took me about half an hour to do it. So this is, I'm just going to continue stitching all my lines down this way and then the other way, and I'll be back to, yeah, I think that's it for tonight, because I'm gonna run out of, instead of running out of space on my memory card, I've got like less than a minute left of recording. So I guess I'll just end there. I just want to say again, thank you to everybody who's been watching my videos and subscribing to my channel. And please look up my new channel, Beauty on a Budget. So I guess I will see you all in my next part, which will be part 2 of making this, where I'm actually going to take all 5 pieces and assemble them. So I will see you all in my next video. Bye.